Hi guys, welcome back to Alamat Short Stories, where we narrate short stories submitted or researched by our team to share with you all. This week's story is about a priest's experience when he visited this particular church. This tale is called The Headless Priest by Infinite Boy. In the year 1941, the Philippines was attacked by the Japanese. It was devastated, with bodies everywhere, women raped, houses burned, people tortured, and children killed. It was the worst year to live in the Philippines. It was hell. Anyway, this church got surrounded by the Japanese, and they executed everyone in that church, including nuns, and the priest that was beheaded by the Japanese. 77 years later, it was a very hot day, and the priest, not the same priest that was beheaded by the Japanese, who had just arrived in the church, was ready to settle in. It had been a long trip to get there, so he was looking forward to finally resting for a bit. And once he had left his belongings in place, he decided to take a walk around that church. It was pretty big, and had a house next to it at his disposal. He walked through the courtyard until he reached the spiral stairway which led to the bell tower. On the way, he was amazed by the peace and the quiet of the whole place. There was a huge garden with many flowers, trees, and birds. That environment was so nice and peaceful that he decided to sit on a stool to breathe in the fresh air. He even closed his eyes. He was very relaxed. But suddenly, a sound jolted him awake. He quickly opened his eyes and thought he saw a figure in the distance. The sun had already set, so he couldn't distinguish anything far away. Yet he still tried to focus his gaze, trying to identify whatever it was hiding behind the bushes. But it was impossible. He couldn't see anything. And so, he focused his hearing instead, since he could still hear the strange noise. And it sounded like a sort of groan. He decided to follow the noise and see what it was about. So he got up and started walking. However, he had to walk feeling his way there, as the place seemed darker than a few minutes before. He advanced, grabbing the tree branches to not trip, until he no longer felt vegetation, and instead bumped into some sort of fabric. It felt torn and worn out, but he couldn't see who or what had it on. And suddenly, a dim light started to shine on whatever was in front of him. It seemed to be wearing a robe. More specifically, some sort of cassock. However, when the light illuminated that person completely, pure horror invaded the priest. Whoever was in front of him had no head. The priest couldn't help screaming at the top of his lungs, and at that moment he could feel his entire body trembling with fear. And as soon as he came back to his senses, he ran away in a random direction. All he wanted was to escape that decapitated, robe-wearing creature who floated towards him, as if his feet weren't touching the ground. That headless being kept groaning desperately, and that's when the priest could understand what he was saying. He wanted to recover his head. However, this is just a folk tale, and the headless priest will roam around the church on the full moon every Friday, wanting his own head back. Some would claim that they would see this priest in the church's window. When you roam around churches in the Philippines, and when you feel cold inside that church, maybe he is behind you. What do you guys think of this week's story? It's very short, and it's an urban legend that I think has been passed on for a few years. If you guys are enjoying the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel to your friends and family. If you have stories you would want me to narrate, send them over at mralamatph@gmail.com. Salamat guys, and see you in the next one.